everyone, and welcome to the 30th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Today, we are going to be picking the top 10 Best Picture winners at the Oscars. Now, the Oscars have nothing to do with whether a movie is good or not. They have often picked wrong, Shakespeare in Love, and their credibility has been dwindling over the past few decades. But with Everything Everywhere All at Once winning Best Picture this year, it has restored a little bit of faith in the eyes of the people. So I went through each Best Picture winner and picked the top 10, and I'll throw in a few honorable mentions. Let me say, it was very, very hard to leave some of these off the list, and even harder seeing some that didn't win. I also went with best to the general public, not my personal favorites. That list would be different. So let's get into the top 10 Best Picture winners. Number 10, Parasite, 2019, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Parasite has been one of the most talked about movies in the last few years and has been making its rounds in a short amount of time. It is the first non-English language film to win Best Picture, which opens the door for foreign releases in the future. Parasite is a slick, funny, and thrilling ride as we watch a family swindle another family in a film about social class and the divide between the people. An original take on something we know all too well, with thrilling twists and turns all along the way. Kang Ho Song and Park So Dam give some brilliant performances, and Bong Joon-ho is proven to be one of the best filmmakers of this century. This is an important film, and it's helping to push the importance of international cinema, which is very special to me. Number 9, No Country for Old Men, 2007, directed by the Coen brothers. This film is here, but if There Will Be Blood would have won, we'd be having a different conversation. Nonetheless, this is one of the best neo-westerns and movies of the 21st century, and is one of the best adapted screenplays of all time. One of the most fun cat and mouse movies, with Javier Bardem playing one of the slickest villains of all time, and Anton Chigurh snagging a Best Supporting Actor statue that night as well. Tommy Lee Jones and Josh Brolin are also great in this movie. The ending is highly debated and talked about, and will have lots of people puzzled in its conclusion. Nevertheless, this is one of the slickest book adaptations we've ever had, with lots of style and substance. Number 8, The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. Out of the 3 winners of the Big Five, I had to put this one on here. Silence of the Lambs is not only one of the Best Picture winners for that year, but it's one of the best pictures of all time. Its suspenseful build-up as you navigate with Clarice and study the mind of Hannibal is one joyous, creepy, and mystifying ride. Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins serve up some of the best acting performances put to screen in American cinema, and this movie is a pop culture staple in history. It's been parodied several times over the decades and has stood the test of time. Number 7, On the Waterfront, 1954, directed by Elia Kazan. One of the best and most influential films ever made. I could have been a contender. We get an Oscar-winning performance from the great Marlon Brando about an ex-boxer who has a tough decision to make. It's a film about morals, upholding the law, fulfilling your potential, and making redemptions. We also get a show-stealing performance from Carl Malden as Father Barry, and this is one of the pioneering films of the Hollywood Golden Era and is one of my personal favorite watches. Number 6, The Deer Hunter, 1978, directed by Michael Cimino. If I'm biased about any film on this list, it would be this one. The Deer Hunter is a film that explores the mind of men at war and how the effects of war can haunt you long after you are gone. Broken into 3 distinct acts, this 3-hour epic breaks down the mind of the man before, during, and after the war, showing us how it starts and how it can finish. Of any film on this list, I recommend this one the most. Michael Cimino showed us his real potential before slightly ruining Hollywood with Heaven's Gate, although I personally think that is a masterpiece on its own right. For all who say Robert De Niro only does mob roles, watch this and give me the same argument. We also get an Oscar winning performance from Christopher Walken and great roles from Meryl Streep and John Cazale in his final film role. Number 5. All About Eve, 1950, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. One of the best acted movies led by ladies, had a record number of Oscar nominations at the time. This movie is about an aging stage actress that takes on a young talent who wants to sabotage her career for her own personal gain. This movie is vicious as you see these women do deceitful acts to further their own personal agendas and give out fake smiles as they hug and kiss each other along the way. Betty Davis gives an all-time performance here, and it's a shame her nor Gloria Swanson won Best Actress that year. Major robbery. We also have an early appearance from the legendary Marilyn Monroe, and this is a personal favorite of mine, and I would also highly recommend. Number 4. Schindler's List, 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg. This movie is a tough watch, but one of the most important films ever made, and a personal achievement for the great Spielberg. This story follows Oskar Schindler, who helps a large group of Jewish people survive the Holocaust through working through the war. This is a brutal watch that will leave you feeling emotional by the end. Well acted by Liam Neeson, but Ray Fiennes is the real star of the show, playing the evil Amon Goth, terrorizing people left and right. I would only suggest this movie when you have some time and need a good cry. Number 3. Casablanca, 1942, directed by Michael Curtis. Here's looking at you, kid. One of the most cliche movies here, but how can you leave it off? It's that good. A film released in the heart of the war and about how love was something to be sacrificed for the greater good of humanity. One of the most recognizable and iconic films of the 40s, Casablanca has stood the test of time and is a staple in film history forever. This film will be studied in film classes across the world for the existence of cinema. Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman are brilliant in this film. Number 2. The Godfather and The Godfather 2, 1972 and 1974, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Well, if I didn't have these on here, this list would be wrong. Opinions don't matter on this. These two films have revolutionized and influenced Hollywood through the 70s and elevated the gangster genre to brand new levels. Think of what Christopher Nolan did for hero films with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. That's what Francis did for the gangster genre with The Godfathers, seeing the evolution of Michael Corleone, brilliantly played by Al Pacino, the rise and fall of Don Corleone, with Oscar wins for Brando and De Niro for their portrayals of the character, and John Cazale giving us the best portrayal of Fredo we could have ever asked for. This movie showed the world that mafia movies can be just as valuable as horror dramas and profitable too. Francis made one of the best sequels ever with a prequel and a sequel all in the same movie. The Godfather 1 and 2 must be appreciated for the masterpieces that they truly are. Now, before we get into number 1, we got some honorable mentions. This is no particular order. Even leaving some honorable mentions off the list felt terrible. Forrest Gump, Amadeus, Return of the King, Ben-Hur, Gladiator, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Moonlight, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Midnight Cowboy, and A Bridge on a River Kwai. And for our number 1 pick, we have Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, directed by David Lean. Of every single Best Picture winner, this is one of the absolute best movies ever made and one of my personal favorites. This almost 4-hour epic showdown of desert madness is filled with one of the best scores of all time, best cinematography of all time, best acting of all time, and best direction of all time. What David Lean was able to do here, filming a mirage, waiting hours on end for the perfect shots of sunsets and rises, and putting himself and his crew through the real trenches to make this movie is something to marvel at. This movie influenced so many filmmakers after it, and it shows. Peter O'Toole is marvelous in this movie, giving us one of the most confident yet stripped down and vulnerable characters we have ever seen, portraying military legend T.E. Lawrence. He plays a character with subtle hints at things about himself that he portrays with such perfection, everything doesn't need to be spelled out to the viewer. Omar Sharif and Alec Guinness also serve it up hot with some of the best supporting performances of all time. This film is action packed, tense, emotional, fun, grand, confident, and basically perfect. This is a film that needs every single minute of its runtime to tell its story. It's a film that takes us on an experience. Have fun playing in the sand as you view this epic tale through the lens of a legend. Guys, thank you so much for watching my Best Picture winners. Let me know your favorite Best Picture winners down below. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.